So I can start with because the first credit that you have listed here is 21 Jump Street. So I guess I can ask how like what the story was of how you got up to being in that and like what made you want to pursue acting and whatever.
Okay. Well, so I started acting about when I was a teenager. And actually, the first show I did was Neon Rider, which was a
Okay.
Canadian show. And then from there, I went on to do a series called Northwood, and I also did 21 Jump Street. I was a guest star on 21 Jump Street. So yeah, so I started, like I said, when I was a teenager. Loved it, super fun. Again, I'm from Vancouver originally. That's
Mm.
where I was. So all those shows were filming up there. So that was also kind of cool. I didn't have to leave home to
Right.
go to work. It was nice. Yeah.
And did you really like on 21 Jump Street? Did you really get to interact much with Johnny or Peter or?
No, it was funny. I came in, and I think I was the first episode after Johnny had left.
Oh,
So I was kind of bummed. I was like, oh, and we loved having Johnny Depp in Vancouver. And he was also really funny at the time. He was trying to get off of 21 Jump Street because he was going to have this big film career,
yeah.
which he ended up having. But he was trying to get off and get out of his contract. So he kept having like big parties and getting into trouble and almost all these things trying to get off the show. And eventually they let him go. So I can't remember the name of the actor who I worked with. Who replaced him. I don't remember. Nice cast, really nice group of people. But yeah, I didn't get to meet Johnny. I would have loved that. That would have been cool.
And you actually can watch a lot of episodes of Northwoods on YouTube now. So I was doing because I didn't think I heard about it before looking it up, but and I watched that music video where you guys are all singing Let It Be Me."
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was a fun show. I'm still friends with all of the people, like the woman who played my best friend on that show. We are still best friends. We've known each other since we were 19. So, and we played best friends on at least one other show. And we've
Oh,
worked together a bunch of times. Yeah, it's like, but it was a wonderful, being on that show was really, truly, it was an amazing experience. I think because we were also young.
right.
And we just were like one big family, and it was really a lot of fun. It was a very special time. It was cool. It was cool.
Since that was a role that was so long lasting for you, did that kind of change your life in a way at that time, like financially and everything?
Yeah, it did. Now the funny thing about that is in Canada, you don't make as much money as you do in the States.
Oh
Like
yeah,
4 seasons on a show in the States, I'd be very wealthy. In Canada, I still needed to get those other jobs. Like I still needed to do Jump Street. I
right.
still needed to do whatever I could get. And I was teaching probably alongside too, coaching acting. But having said that, I was doing more than most people who were 19 or 20 years old. Let's put it that way. I was
Right.
living on my own downtown. That's very expensive. And yeah, and it kind of made it seem like, hey, this is possible. This is a thing. You can actually work as a professional actor, not just here and there, but that you can actually sort of do it. And I did, for many, many years. So yeah, it was life-changing. I was 19 years old when that series got picked up. It was like life-changing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then, I guess the same year that started, you were in that Dream of Jeannie TV movie.
Yeah. Again, I really wanted to meet Barbara Eden because as a little girl, I totally looked up to her in her little genie outfit, even though it's probably completely politically incorrect to say that now. But back then, as a little girl, I loved her. And I saw her briefly, but she was sort of one of, at that point, these actors, once they get to a certain point, they're not on set for very long. They basically come in for 3 days and shoot all their stuff and then they're done. So
Right.
yeah, but it was, I forgot about that show. Yeah, that was fun. It was neat.
And you got into voice acting a little bit, like kind of early on too, when you were on the first My Little Pony series.
Yeah. Yeah. That was also really fun. Again, we were young. I didn't know how lucky I was to book that. I mean, I worked very hard. I worked as an actor, as a voiceover actor. I always worked really hard, and I still do. I'm just a worker person. I like to really be prepared
Right.
for things, and so I worked hard, but it was still fun. I mean, it's so much fun, and again, you make a really incredibly good money doing voiceover acting. And again, it was younger, like it was all girls, right? And we were in the studio, and the director was in LA. So we're in Vancouver, and he's in LA, and we can only hear him. And he had all of our headshots on the wall, so he knew who he was talking to. And so the whole thing, it was all done that way. And it was a lot of fun. And the fun thing about voiceovers, you probably know from the people you've spoken to, is like you can just roll out of bed and show up. You don't have to.
Right.
You know, hopefully you'll brush your teeth for everybody else's sake. But other than that, you just go to work. And so we would be in our pajamas, you know, rolling in there.
And I do want to ask you about, because the thing that actually made me contact you was Ranma.
Uh-huh.
So I do want to ask you what your story about that was.
Yeah, Ranma's huge. It's a major animation series in Japan. I guess it's big here too. I actually have the comic book.
Oh, yeah.
One of the seasons of, I think the one I was in, I'm not sure. But that was fun. I did a little bit of Japanese stuff after that. But the funny thing with, you know, Japanese humor and Japanese anime is very specific. Like it's just different than like growing up on American cartoons, right? It's like, it's just not the same. So it was really fun to be a part of that world. And I loved the whole thing, like his dad turns into a panda.
Yeah.
You know, and they kick kicking people. And that's the other thing too with voiceover that's fun is when you get into these fights, you know, you're making sounds, right? Like you're like, and it's just weird, but it's fun. And it was a good show. It was a lot of episodes I did on that.
And is there a reason, because obviously you were, when you left, you were replaced by Venus Terzo. Was there a reason that you left the role?
I left the city.
Okay.
I went to LA. And I look back and I have no regrets about leaving to come to LA. My life has been blessed. But the funny thing is I do think back about the voiceover work and I think to myself, I was making a lot of money. I had no idea.
Right.
Like how hard it would be to get, like I tried to break into voiceover here and I couldn't do it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I was able to get into voiceover in Vancouver was because it was a kids show.
Mm-hmm.
So it was young people. Whereas you come to LA and you've got so many people competing for these few little commercials and things, and they don't need new people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to have new people join the talent pool. So it was really hard to break into. So I wasn't really able to get into it here. So I do look back and go, I really had a good gig going there. So that's the only reason I left the show. I really enjoyed doing voiceover. I really did. I did very much.
And this is probably obvious, but I'm guessing since I know Ranma was dubbed kind of early on too, you probably didn't have a sense of like how popular it was or anything until way later.
Way later. Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, it was just, and again, I think I might have known if I was in the States at the time, but certainly not in Canada. It wasn't like, anime was it was just getting going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's a whole thing.
Right.
But back then it hadn't really crossed it over as much. And I think also the internet had a lot to do with that too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'd never heard of it. I was just like, yay, cool, got a series, excellent, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that it's kind of hard to notice in some episodes too that you and Venus actually sound a lot alike. So I guess you couldn't immediately tell that she took over your voice.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I expected that would happen. I think I might have tried to figure out a way to be able to come home and do. I don't remember all of that, but I remember. I mean, because I did really enjoy the show and I enjoyed the people. There was never any dispute of like loving it. I loved it. But I think it was just the decision to move to LA, and I think I was in the process of getting a green card, so I think traveling was a little difficult to go across the border. Yeah. So no, but they usually try to do a very good job of finding the replacements, so you really don't know. There's quite a few shows that they've had to do that because something's happened to the actor, or people pass away. I mean, things happen, and so then they do find the replacements, and there's usually someone who's pretty good, pretty close. That you'd have to be really good to notice the difference.
Mm. And were you also friends with any of those people that were in the English dub?
I probably was at the time. I'm trying to think when I went in, if anyone I think actually on that show, I don't think anyone else was in the studio with me. So some of the shows, like My Little Ponytails, we were all in the room together.
Yeah.
Because we're playing off of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Ranma, I don't think we were. I think I was in my own booth. I think I was just doing my stuff.
Okay.
Because dubbing is a little different than being in the original creation of the voices.
Yeah.
Because, right, the animation hasn't been done yet. So we're kind of, as actors, we can kind of guide like how the animation's going to go. But once it's been animated, you're stuck with that as an actor. And so then they don't have to really bring in the whole cast. The chemistry isn't really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more about you dubbing and trying to match up the words as best as you can.
Yeah, because I've talked to some other people that were in the dub of that. I've talked to Matt Hill and Janice Jode, and I know some people moved to LA, but very few of them actually did. Like, I'm not sure if you know David Kay, if you know who that is.
No, not really.
Okay. Yeah.
I watched some of your videos.
But yeah, I'm trying to like interview more Canadian voice actors because I think that they don't really get as appreciated as like Los Angeles anime voice actors.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, for a long time now, I don't know if this is true now, but there was quite a long time where, just like the film industry, they were using voice actors in like us, My Little Ponytails, like I said, the director, the whole production staff was in LA.
Yep.
But they were recording it in Vancouver, and I'm sure it was cheaper.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when you went to LA, when you left Ranma to go to LA, were you moving to LA?
Yeah, I was moving. So the thing in Vancouver, and the thing with acting in general, is depending on your goals and your luck, really. It also has, luck has a lot to do with it. I had, again, Vancouver at that time was filming a lot, but not certainly as much as it is now. And so I basically had done all the shows, guest starred on most of the shows, not all the shows, but most of the shows that were appropriate for me, I had already done. So it was like, well, now what do I do? So I kind of, for me at that point, it looked like either I could move to Toronto, where it's all new shows. So sort of, like you're big fish in a little pond moving to the big pond, and I'm a little fish. So I was either going to do that in Toronto or I was going to do that in LA. And so I had a couple trips to LA with my girlfriend, Deanna, from the show, from Northwood, and spoke with an immigration attorney. And she said it was possible to get a green card. It's going to be hard work, a lot of money to do it legally. And I did. So, but when she said, no, you can do this, I thought, And so I spent a season auditioning here in LA for pilot season and loved it. Just loved the opportunities. There's just so much more going on. And the weather, I mean, God, coming from Canada, the weather's hard to beat. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And I got the green card. And so then I moved. I made the move. And, I had 2 cats at the time. So I felt very responsible for their little lives. So I felt I could go back and forth to Vancouver and Canada, but I decided to move and make it a permanent residence and bring the pets with me. And we'd be, here. So that was, and I don't know how long, I must have been 22 years old. So we're talking a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And was the first thing you got, because going by IMDb, I don't know if it's in order or not, but is the first thing you got when you moved there was Days of Our Lives?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was that. I think that was probably the first thing I got. Yeah, it feels about right. That was fun. Soaps are totally different.
Yep.
They're very different. And what I love again, I was kind of starstruck because I loved Days of Our Lives when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw like Luke and I can't remember all their names, but I remember seeing like, oh my God, there they are. They weren't my scene, but I got to see them in makeup, hair and makeup, and that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah. Well, everybody else I've talked to that has been on soap operas too, so said that it's more difficult than anything else.
Yeah. It's a strange beast also because it's not really, I mean, it's all melodramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much maybe now. Well, I don't even know if soaps are even around, but back then, Days of Our Lives was pretty melodramatic. And I was playing some teenager and there was teen angst and there's drama there. But at the end of the scene, then they hold the camera on you. Like for a really long, awkward time. And it's awkward. And I'm like just holding this look on my face. And I was like, this is weird. And then you also have actors who you're working with who are older who can't remember their lines. So the teleprompters are constantly going, which that doesn't happen on a regular set. You don't have teleprompters. But on soap operas, it's like, they've been on the show for 25 years. They want a teleprompter, they get one. Yeah, hard, fun, different.
And that same year, you were in a pretty good TV movie called Beyond Betrayal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that I filmed. I'm trying to remember where was that the one with Susan Day and
Richard D. Anderson.
Thank you, Richard Dean Anderson. Yes, that was filmed in Vancouver, but I got that here, but it was filmed in Vancouver, and that was fun. Lovely people. Both of those actors were wonderful to work with. Really great. That was really fun. And I got to have my hair dyed blonde, which was kind of cool. Since I'm not blonde.
And do you kind of prefer, because you've been in a few darker things like that, do you prefer getting those kind of roles over more lighthearted things?
That's interesting. Yes. I loved, when I was acting, my favorite roles were probably the TV movies.
Mm-hmm.
There was one indie, I think I only did one indie film, maybe, I think. Caught in the Headlights, that was also, I would put that in the same kind of notion of TV movies-ish, kind of. And my reason for loving TV and movies was you were on set for about 3 weeks. They usually took about 3 weeks to shoot. And they had really good stories for women.
Oh, yeah.
And I love them now. Like I watch Lifetime movies all the time because they're just great. They tend to be women's stories. So, and they're great roles, and I mean, I enjoyed doing the sitcoms. Sitcoms are much easier. They're shorter hours. You have a live audience. It's kind of fun, but I always prefer doing the dramas.
And then, it was a year after that, probably a fun experience working on the Weird Science TV series.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and it was interesting too, because sometimes being naive is a really beautiful thing because you don't really realize how much pressure is on. But, the whole machine of writing a sitcom, like you have your producer, your head writer, and then you have all the other writers, and then you have the actors come in, and then they read the script for the writers to see are their jokes working, and then the writers leave, and it's harder to write. I mean, the poor writers, they're up all night writing, and we just come in, waltz into the set, practice our stuff, hit the marks, blah blah blah, and we leave, and they're like, go back home, and they're writing again, or go back to the office, and they're writing again.
Mm-hmm.
And that show was really good. I think the writing was pretty good. The acting was good. And the other thing they do on sitcoms, if you've ever gone to see one live, is they will change the line right there.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's like, you better be ready for, like, they'll just say this time. It's like, okay. After we've been rehearsing this for a week. But it's a good challenge. It's fun. It's just, and it's nice having a live audience. But I think with sitcoms, I mean, the acting, of course, is important, but the writing's really got to be there.
Mm-hmm. And this is going ahead a little bit, but I guess I can just ask you, too, what your experience was on Boy Meets World.
That was hilarious. I enjoyed Boy Meets World. I had to throw a Frisbee in this one scene. And which I don't remember what the scenario was. I think we were, I don't know, carefree in the college dorm or something like that. Anyway, I'm supposed to throw a Frisbee. I'm terrible at Frisbees. Okay, like I cannot throw anything, particularly a Frisbee. So I go to throw the Frisbee, and I swear to God, the whole crew was like this. They're like, crap, he's gonna hit us. And so I finally threw the Frisbee, and I didn't hit anybody, and everything was fine. But I mean, I do remember them going, oh God, here it comes, you know.
Mhm.
But it was, other than that, it was really fun. It was a fun show. Yeah.
I noticed when I saw the credit, I noticed that for that TV movie Bye Bye Birdie, I noticed that like other Canadian voice actor like and on camera people are in that too, that I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because that was a period piece too, kind of, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite shows.
Mhm.
Bye Bye Birdie was so much fun. God, it was so much fun. And I worked, and it was, again, hard work. But some of the actors, so one thing about acting, and certainly for me anyway, I can act, I can sing, and I can move well, but I'm not a dancer. So they would usually, what they do with someone like me is they pair you up with someone who's a really good dancer who can make you look good. So they
Yeah.
basically just move you around to make it look like you can dance. And so I got teamed up with this guy named Tim. And he and I had so much fun together. And he just would make fun of how terrible I was. But he'd make it look good for the camera. Like he always, you know, at one point I actually hid behind him in one of the scenes. I'm kind of like, you can kind of see my head peeking out, and we're dancing because it's just like, I couldn't do it. And he was cool. Like he was totally on board with me with that. And yet that was filmed in Vancouver as well. So there were a lot of locals. A lot of locals that I knew, again, I knew them from My Little Pony.
Yep.
Some of them I knew from growing up. And just some of them were like literally from the town I came from. But the whole experience of, you know, you record an entire show and then you film it and you're syncing yourself. So we're lip syncing to our own voice. So there's a lot of prep to do that. Plus you're choreographed. So you're dancing and syncing to your own voice. So it was really I loved it. It was fun. A lot of fun, but it was hard, but it was so worth it. There was not a day that I didn't have a wonderful time. And the cast was fantastic. I mean, a wonderful, incredibly talented group of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask about that too. If there was one like particular person that you interacted with the most, like Vanessa or Jason or.
Vanessa and Jason a lot. Jason and I talked a lot. Because at that point I was really open. I really wanted to know things, so I would just ask actors. You know, anyone I've worked with, I just try and say, "Tell me what I should know." Like, you know, even direct me a little bit if you want to in the scene. I won't mind, because they're pros. You know, they've done so much more than I had. And I mean, Jason Alexander is so talented with musicals. And so I saw him do a couple of live shows here, actually in LA. He did the producers, and he was able to get me tickets for that. And so yeah, he was super supportive. Vanessa Williams is lovely. Everybody was just really supportive and fun and lovely. Honestly, Tyne Daly was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Her scene, that song that she sings, she sang it live. She said, "I'm not singing to myself. I'm singing live," and she did. Amazing. I was on set. I went just to watch her do it. Like I just went to watch her work. And because she's a Broadway performer, you know, they don't need all. To them, that's fine. They'll just sing live, whatever.
And was that project with that movie? Was that the most difficult thing that you've worked on, or is there something was even harder for you?
In terms of technical stuff, yeah, that would probably have had to have been, yeah, for sure, because it required singing, dancing. And then we went back and filmed the soda shop scene. So there was an extra scene kind of featured me, which was really cool. And that was really fun. But it was grueling in terms of the dancing. And also, so I'm not a dancer, but some of the people in the show who were Vancouver locals, are professional dancers. And then you had New York dancers, like Broadway dancers. So to see and Broadway singers. So to be working with those people was really inspiring, but also really like, wow. I mean, you know, watching these people warm up, it's like you're watching art. Just
Right.
and it's just a warm up. It's just them warming up their bodies to start moving. And you know, I'm like the Tin Man coming to set, and I'm like, you know, so it was really, God, the talent in that show was really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And the director I think he's passed, but was a director of Broadway shows. And Ryan King was a Broadway choreographer. Stephen, I think his last name was Wynn, I can't remember. He was also a Broadway conductor and accompanist. So it's, I mean, that's a big deal. You know?
Right.
It was a lot. It's a lot to live up to.
And I thought that, and just in terms of working with big people, I thought that I read on your website or something that you got to read with Madonna for something. Was that right?
I did.
What was that for?
Oh my God, that was really cool. That was for, okay, so one of the things in Hollywood, which you've probably already heard this before, but what some directors, if they want to kind of boost their career, and in this case it was Mary, her career, I can't remember Mary's last name, but I had done Face of Evil with Mary, which is a TV movie, and Mary had written a script. And so what she wanted to do was arrange a table reading for the Mucky Mucks of Hollywood. And the point of that is so she can say, look who I can get as a director to be in a movie. Mm-hmm. And that helps her get noticed. So because then it makes her, well, if you can get Madonna, you're in good shape. Mm-hmm. If you can get Madonna to be in your movie, you're in good shape. So Mary had directed, I think it was Like a Prayer with Madonna. So she knew Madonna. And so she did her own, she'd written this film, and Gabriel Byrnes was in it, Julian Sands was in it, me, and a couple other people from Face of Evil and from other, like, because we all played like these young nuns. And Madonna, of course, was playing physically Madonna, but she was Madonna. And so that was a huge deal for me. Again, I used to sing all her songs and dance around and wish I was Madonna when I was a little girl, when I was a teenager, right? So it's like, oh my God. So that was really cool. That was really cool. It was fun. It was fun to, but honestly, it was also great working with Gabriel Byrnes. He's a fantastic actor. So, but she didn't really have much to say to me or any of the girls, to be honest with you. She wasn't really interested in talking to us. When we took our break, she was talking to the man. She wasn't talking to us. So, but she also, I'll tell you one thing, because I sat right next to her at the table, and she was absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. You know, she's just in person, just flawless, radiant. She's all those things. She really is. She's a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm. And I can lead that into a general question I like to ask any actor I interview. Did you ever get the opportunity to be a part of any movie or TV show, like audition for anything that was really, that ended up being really big or really iconic when you were acting in LA?
What, in LA? Let me try to think of anything I did that was big. Well, niche things like Bye Bye Birdie was kind of I know people still say, oh, I loved that show, but it's a very specific show. I mean, you got to really like musicals. The only other one that's pretty funny to me and is if you're into sci-fi, which I'm not, but if you're into science fiction, there's this series out there called Puppet Master. And so I did one of the Puppet Master movies.
Yeah.
And I still get fan mail and people getting in touch with me specifically about Puppet Master. It's like, I have all these other credits, and they're like, yeah, but Puppet Master, you don't know about that. And it's like, okay. And to me, that was the best part of Puppet Master is it was filmed in Romania. So I got to go to Romania, which was cool. Yeah. That's another benefit of acting. If you can get traveling, like I got paid to go to Romania. I would never have gone to Romania normally, but it was great to go. So that's the only thing I'm a part of that the anime stuff, that was, Ranma was big. But I didn't get a whole bunch of feedback in terms of people getting in touch with me about that. It was the most fan stuff outside of Northwood would probably be that Puppet Master, which is hilarious to me. Really? Okay.
So is the table read with Madonna, is that also probably like the experience you've had in terms of being around someone who was huge or anything
Yeah.
like that?
She's the biggest star I'd say I've ever been around.
Okay.
I mean, hands down, she's the biggest star I've ever been around. But I was around a lot of, I mean, because they were in everything, you know, Donna Mills. I mean, I can't even think of all the names of the people I worked with. I worked with Christopher Plummer. I mean, he was a really nice man. Really liked working with him. A lot of these people, you know, they're just people. When you come to set, they do their thing. Some of them are jerks. I worked with some jerks, but most of them, you know, they're they're working. You know, that's what they do. But I mean, Madonna was a whole different level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that horror TV movie with Christopher and skeletons.
Yeah, that was fun. I had to. It was an interesting. Who else was in that? Wasn't there? There was another. Oh no, I'm thinking of another one. Yeah, that was a fun film. I don't remember where that was done. I think that was done locally here. I think that was done in LA. He was really nice. That was one of those funny things, though. I will say this is another thing that happens with actors. And if anybody's watching this and wants to become an actor, you should know that this can happen. So let's say you and I have a scene together, and they film you, and you're the star. Let's say you're Christopher Plummer, you're the star, and you do your close-up, and then it comes time to do my close-up, and then you say, all right, see you later, I'm gonna go back to my trailer, and I have someone else stand in who isn't you, reading the lines to me, and I have to act like it's Christopher Plummer doing the performance he just gave. So that was common on that show, and it's probably because it was a fairly low budget show. So I think the big names were like, I'm not gonna stand around here and read off camera for you, because I don't know who you are, you're nobody. So they would go to their trailer, and that's what you had to do. Aside from that, really liked the show, and I remember I had to break some glass. I think I had to either drop something or smash something, and it was that Hollywood glass that breaks, like a sugar glass or something. And I was completely freaked out that I'd screw it up, because that's not. I don't think it's cheap. I think you know, and they only have so many things. Although they probably know that they have to have a few extras because we screw up. But it went okay, so that was good. But I do remember that moment. I was like, oh God, I have to break this thing. The things I worried about, you know. But.
Yeah. Did you get to interact much with Dee Wallace?
Yeah, that's who else was on that show. Yeah, yeah, quite a bit. But again, people on that show were a little bit more in and out. You know, but it was fine. I mean, I still enjoyed it. It was a great experience. And I got to do a lot of scenes with Christopher Plummer, which was pretty cool. So, you know, watching him work. I think that's one of the things I liked when I was able to work with these people, is just to watch them work, watch their process, and just be up close and seeing their work up close. It's pretty inspiring. It's pretty cool.
Right.
It's a privilege.
And you were year before that, in 1996, you were on a TV show that not a lot of people talk about, but it's pretty good. Sliders.
Okay, that's another one. Okay, Sliders is a good show. I like Sliders. So I say I don't like science fiction. I do like science fiction. The episode that I did, actually, my girlfriend, who is a neighbor in my building, was one of the writers.
Oh.
We didn't know each other at the time. We didn't know each other at all. But and then later she moved into our building later after we did. And when she met me, she's like, oh, "You were on my episode. I worked on that episode of Sliders." And so talk about a small world. And we're still friends. And so yeah, I liked that show. Who was the producer on that show? I was fairly well known. Can't think of his name now. Darn it. But it was a fun show to work on, and I liked it. I liked everything about it. I liked the costuming. I liked the whole look. You know, I thought they did a really good job with the look of the show, of my episode anyway. Yeah, and that was also filmed here in LA, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where. I remember driving a long way.
And what's
yeah.
because I never heard of it before. There's another TV series called Nightman.
It's a good, yeah, it's okay. They never heard of it. That's all right. Nightman down in San Diego. Look, you take the work when it comes your way, right? It was filmed down in San Diego, so again, I got to go to San Diego, so that was fun. And look, the actors were very nice. The guy who played Nightman, I don't remember his name, but he was very nice. It was, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, my part in it wasn't that big. I remember, I think I had a drug problem or something. I think I died. I think my character died. So it sort of sets off the rest of this episode for Nightman to solve the crime, which I guess he did. I hope he did.
And then when you were on that TV series that Ryan Reynolds was a part of, what was that like?
Okay, now that was interesting too, because my girlfriend, again, the one who played my best friend on Northwood, did a TV movie with Ryan when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And so now he's a young man when I'm working with him. And again, when you watch these shows at home, and even now I forget about it now that you're mentioning it, it's like the amount of pressure and the work that these people do it looks effortless. They're really working to make things funny, to make things work. And Ryan he was very talented, very nice. They're all, again, everyone's pretty nice to work with. But boy, did they work. Those actors were just like really working it. Working the jokes, trying to find the funniest way to say the jokes. And then, of course, Ryan ended up having a huge career. Mm. So, but yeah, he's very naturally funny guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Which you kind of have to be, I think. If you're going to do comedy, you have to have a sense of humor.
Right. And so a couple of years after that, what was your experience working with Chuck Norris on that President's Man, that TV movie?
I loved it. Chuck Norris, again, nice group of people to work with. Okay, so he, first of all, when he kicks, he's kicking, like he can kick that high, at least then he could. And I'd watched, what I thought was so fun to watch on that was the fight scenes, because it's all about that, right? Mm-hmm. And to see these guys, first of all, these are the guys who, if they weren't stuntmen, they'd be totally in trouble with the law. Like they clearly they like fighting. They love it. And they're hitting each other. Like they're padded a little bit, but when they kick someone, they're getting kicked and They're hitting and they're punching. I was shocked to see that. It's also very well choreographed. So they're rehearsing everything so nobody's getting hurt. I mean, they're taking punches. And then his double, because he does have a stunt double. I got into the trailer, not the trailer, the vehicle, the van that was taking us to set. And there's this guy at the very back of the van, and he looks exactly like Chuck Norris. And I stare at him because, first of all, Chuck Norris is not going to sit at the back of the van. If he's not even going to sit in a van, he's going to have his own car that's taking him to set, right? But I get in the van, I'm like, is that Chuck Norris? And the guy just waves at me. He's like, I'm a stunt double. And I was like, okay. So, yeah, and it was nice. It's kind of a family group too. Like Chuck has been able to hire a lot of his family to do various jobs like accounting and all sorts of the other things. And so it was a nice family experience. It was a nice feeling on set. It was, but the fighting was super cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, this was like 2 years before that, but since it was one of Haley Joel Osment's first roles, I was going to ask what Cab to Canada was like for you too.
Yeah, Haley was very talented, very, very talented young guy. So that was a cool show because, first of all, we filmed in a historic place. I think it's the Coconut something downtown in Los Angeles that's known for a lot of things. And so it's at the moment now it's like only used for film crews because it's in a really bad part of town, but it wasn't at the time. Mm. And so that was cool, and just sort of seeing like filming and where there's been a lot of history. But then also working with Haley, working with children is always interesting in that usually, I mean, I haven't worked with a ton of kids, but with Haley for sure. They're super smart, and they can memorize, and they can pick a scene up halfway through. They're just, because there's just, if you can't get that part and not be on top of your game, even at the young age he was. And so we would film with Haley. He was great, a little actor, and then we'd tease him, because then, you know, so we'd do a scene or whatever, and then it would be a break for us while the crew was setting up for the next scene or setting up the next shot or whatever. And so then we'd all say, okay, Haley, back to school. And he'd be all like, oh, and he'd have to leave and go back to the trailer where the teachers are. And he'd have to go back to school. So he was doing school in between filming.
Right.
And so, but he didn't care. He was good. And he was there with his dad, who's a really lovely man, and very low key. He wasn't like those crazy mothers on set that are a nightmare. His dad was really cool and chill, and it was fun. But Haley was a really, really good actor. Really good, really, really good. I was happy to see him go on to do Sixth Sense. He was a good actor.
And so one of the last things that you were a part of was that movie Bad Boy.
Bad Boy. Oh yeah, Bad Boy. Yeah. Is that the one with, who's that? Is that Elizabeth Hurley?
Yeah, and Dennis Leary.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Dennis Leary. Okay, great. I'm thinking of the right one. That was interesting because they had broken up right before it started filming.
Oh.
Dennis Leary and Elizabeth Hurley had been dating, and then they broke up right before it started shooting. So anytime they had scenes together, which was all the time, there was serious tension, and it was awkward. It was awkward. I loved the director. Victoria was wonderful to work with. Most of the directors I worked with were men, but I had the privilege of working with some pretty cool women. And she was definitely one of them, and she could handle the crew and could handle the tension well. But it was one of those weird, like, oh, God, I'm coming on to sex. Most of the sets I went to, everything was fine. There was no drama. There was not a lot happening. But with that, it's like you got two huge stars and they're the leads and they hate each other. It's like, oh, this is not.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting show. Yeah, it was interesting to do that one. Forgot about that one.
And so the last credit you had was a TV series called Strong Medicine.
Yeah, Strong Medicine. Yeah, and I think Jacqueline Smith is in that, if I recall.
Okay.
Is that right? Am I right about it? I could be wrong. There was some actress on that show that I was like, oh, I'm so excited to work with her. I think she was on Charlie's Angels. Maybe it's a different actress I'm thinking of, but that was fun. Yeah, so we were all playing pregnant girls. So it was Strong Medicine. It was, we were, I wasn't pregnant at the time, but I was pregnant, and I remember being wheeled into the scene, and there's a bunch of us going into birth at the same time, and that was kind of the drama that was happening. And that was a lot of fun, actually, because one of the other actresses I worked with she was like a guest star like me, and she had literally just had a baby like 5 months prior to that. So she's like, oh, I know exactly what's happening right now. So that was kind of fun. I didn't, but.
And was there something in particular that made you want to stop pursuing acting?
A couple of things. First of all, oddly enough, again, going back to my love of TV movies, that's where I got the most work. Because that's where there were really great roles for young girls. And I wasn't the lead in those shows. I was supporting the lead, but I got a lot of work. I worked in a lot of them.
Yep.
And what happened is right around when I gave up acting, reality TV came in.
Oh, yeah.
And because this is like, you have to remember, like, the whole O.J. Simpson trial created this opportunity for reality TV to come in. And so and the producers were smart, because it's like, you don't have to hire actors. They're saving a lot of money, and they're shot on video. So all the TV movies, all the shows that I was doing died, basically. It all went away. And everything was this reality television stuff. And I thought, okay. And so it was, for me, it was a really, really hard time, because I had always figured, oh, I'll just be an actress my whole life. I didn't think anything of it, even though I'd done other things along the way, alongside, I should say. But I mean, I just, but so then when the business started changing in that way, I thought, all right, I have to figure this out. So, so we did some soul searching, and for me, it came down to, what do I get out of acting?
Mm-hmm.
What do I get out of it? And because it's hard, it's a really, really hard business. You got to get something out of it. And it was not the fame and not all that stuff. It was more that I loved connecting with people. You know, I loved watching their work. I loved working with people. I mean, when you're in a scene with someone, you're both clicking. It's magic. It's beautiful. And so I thought, well, I can do that without having to act. Actually, I can do that in a lot of different ways. So I decided, I was starting to take Pilates, and I loved it. And I thought, and I'm not like a big fitness enthusiast. It's just that I've never really been, I mean, I've been fit and healthy, but that's not a big thing for me. But Pilates was different. I was like, it felt different. It was a different way of moving. It was holistic.
Mm-hmm.
It was, there was something about it that this was really different, and I would learn a lot. So I became certified as a Pilates instructor. And then about 8 years ago, maybe, I became certified as a life coach as well.
Okay.
So, and again, it's about connecting with people. So, you know, I just led a workshop this weekend with 6 women, and it was just magic. It was just absolutely beautiful. So I'm still getting my mojo, but I'm doing it just differently, and actually almost, I'm not going to say more genuinely, but it's just more me showing up versus me being a character.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't love that. I loved it, but it was just a natural progression. And you know, I'm 50 now, so when I look back at my life, I can kind of see like, oh, that's exactly why I did that, and why I did that, and why that happened, and why that happened, because it all leads to now, you know.
Right.
It's like, oh. So I'm still teaching Pilates, and I'm definitely life coaching, which has been, through the pandemic, the coaching has been very helpful for people, and I've been able to do a lot of it. So I'm very grateful to have a job.
Do you have an answer as to like what you'd want your legacy to be in terms of your acting career and the roles that you've had? If people see you and what you want them to think?
Yeah, I think for me, what's all, and certainly through the pandemic, this has came back for me in my own value system, but the importance of genuine work, like really going to the mat, like bringing your number one game, like bringing all of it, and putting it out there for people so they have the opportunity to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that most people, at the end of the day, they're tired. You know, they've been working all day or Zooming all day, or they have the kids at home being schooled, or they have this and they have that, and they just want to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to get out of Dodge, you know, like just take me somewhere. Take me to the, you know, sci-fi stuff. Cool. Take me to, you know, a comedy. Take me all these, just get me out of here. And that's what I think acting and art, you know, TV, film, it takes you somewhere. It takes you places if it's well done, if it's done with a heart. It's, and I think that, and I've always felt that that's a huge value.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for anyone out there who wants to pursue any kind of artistic career, they should, because art is so important. And, you know, I can joke and say, well, you know, Boy Meets World, is that really art? Well, if it makes you laugh, then yes. You know, if it takes you away for half an hour from the crap you have to deal with, yes, great. Then I did my job, and you were able to forget things for a few minutes.
Right.
And I do think humor is one of my major, major, major strengths. I love humor. I use humor with everything. It has got me through all the crap in my life. I've used humor. And I think that really at the end of the day, like I just said, people need to feel. And a lot of people have a very uncomfortable time feeling without being given a vehicle. And film industry gives you that 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the last thing I can ask you then is do you have any lines that you can remember, or like a favorite line that you remember from voicing Ranma?
No, but I do remember loving every single time. This is terrible to say, but every time it's like the water gets thrown on him, right? And it's like the boobs pop out. I always remember, like, I was like, oh my God, this is great. It's like they're great, big, huge. And like, I don't know. Wow, she's stacked. So I do remember always like, here it comes, because that's my part, right? That's when I got to speak. So I was like, there are the boobs.
Well, thanks. This was fun to
Yeah.
be able to do with you.
This has been great. It's been really nice talking to you. Nice meeting you. Good job.
Once I get it up on YouTube, I can send you the link to it and everything.
I would love that. Yeah, and I'll let people know about it for sure. That would be great.
Thanks. Bye.